Wow, dude, you really like this show and think it's extremely important. And the fact of the matter is I do. Welcome back to the channel. All right, for most of you, I think you're going to know exactly who I am. You know the channel you've tuned in on. There's a very small chance I put this out on a totally different channel because honestly, this stuff really matters to me. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to you all about it on streams, on the Discord server, and in general. And I don't know. In fact, I want your feedback on that. So if you're seeing me for the very first time ever, hi, I call myself Vega. I have a gaming channel that covers Marvel Contest of Champions. And that's actually what you're seeing there in the background is Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. But what I'm going to actually talk about today is episode 1 of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus and why I absolutely loved it. And also that I'm aware not everyone does, and that I think that is totally okay. And I think our society and everyone would be better off if we understood that that's all right. I'm going to explain to you a little bit about who I am so you can understand where I'm coming from, why I absolutely love the show. And I will admit, I'm probably a little bit biased. I'm motivated to like it. And then I want to cover 2 of the major criticisms I'd heard from it, because I think there's some things that we can work with. I think there's some things we can talk about and help people out, because I do believe these shows have a social impact and they impact us more than just what's entertaining us for the moment. I think in many ways, life does imitate art as much as art imitates life. Now, who am I? I'm in my 40s. I'm a 43-year-old guy who loves gaming. I have a full-time job elsewhere, but what started off as a hobby has quickly turned into something I absolutely love doing. I put out videos, I have grown a channel and a Discord community, and I absolutely love playing Marvel Contest of Champions along with all of the MCU, and I've been diving into the comics lately. I mean, that's an America Chavez doll with a Squirrel Girl and Tippy Funko right there on the counter. So you see that there for yourselves. But that's who I am, and that's why I want to preface all this by saying, like, I believe I am motivated to like it. I was motivated to watch it. There was things about Moon Knight that I fully enjoyed that I know weren't seemingly that meaningful to everyone else. But again, that's totally okay. And let's go ahead and talk about that. So why did I love this show? Well, first of all, one is with anything like this, right? If it's like, if it could be put under the umbrella of like diversity or strong women or anything like that, that right now we don't consider as just being a normal television show, which is what I actually hope we eventually get to. I'd love to see that in my lifetime, where it's like, it's not a strong woman, it's just a woman. But right now we are where we are. And so I loved it because it's actually good. It's well acted. The acting was phenomenal. The writing was incredible. It often go hand in hand, in my opinion. I often have difficulty telling, was the acting bad or was it the writing? But in this one, when they're good, it's very clear. They're both good. It's visually stunning. It really captures your eye. It's done in a very updated way, which, and we'll get to it at the end, is a reason why I could see some people just not liking it. It might not be their visual style, much like into Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. And I think that's important. It actually needs to be good. We can't just like it. I didn't just like it because it stars a young Pakistani woman. Also, I liked it. For me, it reminded me, at least this is just one episode. We'll see how the rest of it goes. It reminds me a lot of what I see and enjoy about Spider-Man. Like I said, I'm a father. I have 2 young children. I think it'd be meaningful to me anyways, because I was young at some point anyway. But seeing a young person go through these struggles, to maybe not be the coolest person, to maybe even be picked on, to have friendships in what appears to maybe even be semi-romantic relationships, but they're not sure in their friendships or they're romantic, and go through all of that, and go through all of that in the humorous, kind way is really interesting. And that's part of what I like about Spider-Man. Yes, the swinging around and the saving of people and the superhero things is really cool. And that's a big part of what got me to watch it to begin with, Spider-Man and Miss Marvel. But it's also about someone it appears to be probably a coming of age story and working within her culture. Because we all have cultures. We all have cultures that we all come from. We have family dynamics, we have siblings, we have parents, and those sorts of things. And I feel like they showed that exceptionally well. the situations with her mother, like I can even identify with that from my own upbringing of seeing the boys being treated and having a very different rule set than the girls. And seeing that on television, I do think is helpful for people. One, it's interesting and entertaining and is reflective of the life I know I led. And I would imagine you don't need to be a Pakistani immigrant to America family for you to be able to relate to that, for you to say like, wait a minute, myself or my brothers played by a very different set of rules than my sister or myself did. My parents just thought of us differently. They had different ideas on how they were supposed to protect us and to get us to act into society. And so seeing those sorts of things played out on the screen in a way that's well acted and well written is very meaningful and enjoyable for me. Something that I know a lot of people point at is that, representation matters. And like, I won't even stay away from that phrase because I know for some people that's just a really big hot red button where they're like, oh no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And that's what I want to get away from. Let's not argue about the terms. Here's what I will say is yes, it was meaningful for me and it is meaningful for me seeing women in power, to have powers, to be the hero, to be making decisions, to be funny. But it's not just about the young girl sitting on the sofa or sitting in the movie seats or reading the comic book. I know that's who we highlight, and that's so much who we so often say, like, here's why it's important, and here's why it needs to happen, and here's why we need this. And there is truth to that, but it completely limits a bigger, what I think just as important part of it all. And I say bigger because I think there's a much broader audience than just the young woman who's watching it. There's all the people who aren't young women. There's women who fall into a variety of ages. There's men who fall into a variety of ages. There's young boys. And I believe, and I feel I know, at least from my own personal experience, seeing that is important. It's been helpful to me. I wish there'd been more of it in my lifetime because I do believe it is very much translates into the real world. They bring it into their classrooms. We're having the girls be capable, be good at sports, getting up and speaking in front of the class, volunteering when the teacher asks the questions, and raising their hands, being good at math, normalizing all of that stuff, which for the most part is not normalized in our current society. At some point, girls are expected to be passive, not good at math. They're not expected to not be humorous or funny. So having television shows, and this is where I hope life ends up imitating art, having television shows and growing up with shows like that is not only helpful to all of these people when they are children, but as they get older too, because eventually, they'll be in social circles together. They'll be working together. They'll be starting companies together. They'll be sitting on boards together. And they will be responsible for working together in meaningful ways. That's already happening so much. And if we can help younger people get to a comfort level much quicker than we have or we did, and maybe you're perfect. Maybe you are totally immune to all of this. And you're like, no, if you identify as a male and you're like, no, when women give me directions or they want to drive or they are in business negotiations with me or we're working together in a department, they are completely my equal. I have no discomfort in taking it. That is great. That is awesome. You are phenomenal. But I know that's not how everyone else is. I know that for a fact. And I'll even use my own life and say that it took me time to get comfortable with these things. And I'm someone who believes in equality. But when it came down to it, when there was moments in my own professional career, in my own marriage, I had to be actively aware of the biases I took to it that I didn't even realize I had. And if I can help my kids, or if we can help younger generations get there even faster and to have to spend less of their mental energies working on fighting those biases, I think that's a great thing. And if we can do it and be totally entertained at the same time, that's even better. And so that's why I want to admit that this show, one, it had to be good on its own. It's well acted. It was well written. The directing, the art, the whole thing, it's fantastic. But I also admit I was biased to like it to begin with. And I can see why so many people do like it. The ratings were phenomenal. Now I want to address the criticisms, because the fact of the matter is just because I like something, and I think it's good on its own, and I think it has value, it has social value, it has moral value, doesn't mean everyone else has to. And I think that's not necessarily the most important part of this, but I think it's one of the biggest things that will be a theme throughout everything. In any video I make on this sort of topic, it's going to be there, is that it's okay that other people didn't like it. And I think we should work on that. I'm not immediately assuming that that means they hate little girls, or that they hate Pakistani people, or that they hate Muslims, because it just flat out is not true. It is not true that if you didn't like it, that's why. There may be people who that is why they didn't like it. But if we immediately assume that anyone who voices their displeasure or their distaste, or that they just didn't like it, if we immediately attack them with it, then we're going to immediately turn them off. And then we'll immediately put them in places of feeling defensive. And then they won't share their opinions, or if they do, they're going to come from a place of feeling defensive, and they'll come across much more angry or uncomfortable. And that is the exact opposite of what you want in civil discourse and in learning. I want to address the two criticisms that I heard the most, that I read the most, that weren't just the outrageous ones. We're not going to address that because, some people just, it is what it is. There's not much we can do for them in a YouTube video anyway. One is that there were stereotypes. And you know what? There were. And there was even parts of it for me in particular, and I want to do this as spoiler free as possible, and I think we will miss all large spoilers here. There's parts of me where her father is acting, to me, almost like childlike at the technology that her friend brings into the house. He's acting as if it's almost like magical, like he just can't imagine it. It's unfathomable. This man is basically like a magician. That the young friend who has brought in the technology. Now, as someone who's not exactly young, I can kind of identify it. If you've ever caught one of my streams, it's actually a joke that in every single stream, something will confuse Old Man Vega. There'll be some sort of technological breakdown, and Old Man Vega, me, will not know how to fix it. And it's become a joke because it happens so frequently. So I can kind of get that. And I feel like, as the story goes on, we may even find out that he was the dad. The actor is intentionally overplaying that. I'm very curious about that. There's some thoughts on that too. But again, this isn't intended to be a fan theory or spoiler show. But I think that also here's what's important is the intention of it all. What was the intention of the stereotypes? And the intention of these stereotypes, for the best I could tell, was to, as respectively as possible, tell the story of this Pakistani immigrant family and have that be relatable to so many immigrant families. And honestly, I believe to so many families who are not immediate immigrants, right? On some level, we're all immigrants, but to families who've been here for 2, 3, 4 generations, I bet there was still some very relatable things. And for that to be the point, is that we all have so much more in common than we have that makes us different. If we're families, we love our families. We're doing our best by them. We all have flaws, but we're doing our best by them. And often between parents, between spouses, between partners, and between children and their parents, communication breaks down. It breaks down badly, especially because we matter so much and communication is difficult. I mean, at its core, that's what it was, is these parents trying to protect their children and then bring them up in the world that they think they're growing up in. And the kids realizing that they're growing up in a very different world than the ones their parents think they're preparing them for. But at the end of the day, it all comes from love. It's just communication is tough, and raising kids is really scary. And none of this was done. None of these stereotypes, in my opinion, was done to ridicule, to make fun of. They weren't the token Pakistani family. This was not done for humor. It was done to showcase a life experience that in many cases, and I've spoken with and communicated with some people, and they're saying like, no, this is very real. This is not Apu from The Simpsons, who was there for have a stereotyped voice and to work at the slushy mart. This is not Fez from that 70s show, speaking with an accent to be humor, to be the setup for jokes. This was done respectfully and with intention to show an experience. Now, the other big criticism I've heard and read, and I've had discussions with some very good people. I know some of the people that have told me this. They are great human beings who love other media, TV shows, movies, music from what many people would call people of color. I know that that did not play into their thinking in any way, shape, or form. I want to make that clear. But one of the things that they said, and I heard this frequently, is I didn't like it because they told me stuff. It was very clear, like, you're gonna like her. She is powerful. And it's very tough for me not to have an immediate defensive reaction because I heard that same criticism so much from the Captain Marvel movie that was recently out a couple years ago, and from just America Chavez, the character in comic books and other shows in general. They're like, it's just so clear. They're like, you're gonna like her. You have to like her. She says, I'm powerful. She acts with this tremendous bravado. They're arrogant. And why are they announcing that they're superheroes? Why are they announcing that they're strong and they are awesome? Like, just show us. I want it to be like how we normally have it or how we used to have it. Like my favorite champions or my favorite characters, and they just show us that they're powerful and that they're heroes. And that one's tough for me, but I think it's important that we, again, tackle it. I don't know if you can tackle something tactfully, but if we address it tactfully and carefully, because people are actually feeling comfortable making criticism. And I think that's important because we can learn too. Everyone can learn. I can learn. I'm going to read these comments and hopefully learn from this. But here's what I will say, and here's what I have said, is I would examine why hearing Captain Marvel say these things, hearing America Chavez do or say these things, but this is about Miss Marvel, the television show. Why does hearing her say, to look at her friend and say like, I'm a superhero? Why is that bothering? Why does that take you out of your willing suspension of disbelief? Why does that take you out of the world that they've created on the TV show? When hearing Iron Man at the end of Iron Man 1 say, I am Iron Man. Why is one exciting and the other one something you don't like? Why is Spider-Man, when he first realizes he has his powers and he's swinging around and he's sticking to things and climbing on the wall, it's, that is very common in his story and his process of he's a young man and coming to terms with like, holy cow, I have superpowers. Why is that cool? Why is that unique? Why is that identifiable in some ways? And seeing Kamala Khan have the same experience, why is that not? Why is one something that you either liked or didn't feel like they were telling you? But with her, it does feel like they're telling you. And I think that's something we can address. Now, maybe there will be something in there. Maybe you can pinpoint some very factual things that happen in the show. I'm open to that idea. But I would also ask or think or say, evaluate that. And it might go back to one of the main reasons why I told you I liked this show and why I admitted, I think it's important like that we admit these things, that over my lifetime, I had to address biases that I was bringing. I had to address biases I was bringing into my own relationships, to my work relationships, where I was like, wait a minute. I need to get better at accepting that sometimes I'm bringing this bias in, and that is negatively affecting this relationship. So ultimately what I'm saying is, and I want to make it clear, I'm not accusing someone of being sexist. Not at all. In fact, I myself in this video have admitted that over my lifetime, I have had to work at being aware of biases that I'm bringing to the table into many of my own professional and social relationships. Once I became aware of them, I then needed to accept that I had them. And then once I accepted that, I needed to work on it. Because those biases were not helping me or the person I was working with at all. And I feel like, again, the more we address these biases that we all carry, we all have them, folks. We all do. The more we accept them, work with them, the better off we'll be, the better off everyone will be. So I know some of you, if you've made it this far, you're probably like, wow, dude, you really like this show and think it's extremely important. And the fact of the matter is I do. I do think these things are important. And I think we need more good versions of these sorts of stories until they aren't considered unique or unusual or whatever. And we don't need to make videos or have commentary on them where people can just be like, yeah, you know what? I didn't like Miss Marvel. And it's just like, yeah, you know what? I didn't really like it either. I really loved Iron Man. I'd love to get to that point, but unfortunately, we're just not there yet. But we can get there. And I think we can get there if we have these open, honest conversations where we allow the space for people to say things and then take them back or to think through what they have said. Now, again, if you've made it this far, thank you. I don't know how many folks will, but I would really appreciate it. Let me know. Are you interested in more videos like this? I have to say, it's what I love. It's one of the biggest things I love about doing YouTube, about streaming and having the Discord server. These kind of more like social impact things, parenting, are extremely meaningful to me. And we have other topics going on this month, like with Pride Month. And then also, it's not this month, but with Moon Knight. And there was a lot of very meaningful things to me in the show, on top of it just being an awesome show that I would love to talk about. And I don't know if my current gaming channel is really the place to do it. Should be another channel. Like I said, if you've made it this far, very open to hearing what it is you'd like to hear. And then also hearing, like, what did you think about this video itself? We'll check the comments. If you're not familiar with me, I always check the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope episode 2 is just as good, if not as better. If it's just as good, if not better, than episode 1. And thank you so much for watching. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.